Hello and welcome. Tuesday noon, the usual time for conversations with the earth. Hi, Marianne. Are you going to
Hi,
start out
Karina.
today?
Yes, I have a topic to talk about. If
Oh,
so, interesting thing was change came really clear for me, perhaps
mhm.
because of the choices I made lately. And what came up with change was change isn't difficult. Change can really be easy. Nevertheless, in the beginning, and when I say in the beginning, let me speak about 2, 3 years ago when I entered Access for the first time and hearing about change and the ease, etc. I had a lot of resistance, like, what the heck? Change, ease? No, change, you need to work, change. Oh, I'm out. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm back. So change is hard work. Change is a process. Change is something, yeah, that lasts an
Mhm.
amount of time or whatever. Now today is like, wow, but it is ease. It is not hard work. What if, as in my experience now, change is just a choice, not hanging on to. If I want to make a change, if that is my target, that I want to change something because it doesn't work for me, then I can go with that change and see, yeah, what is that? What is it that I want to change? But in that second, nearly making that change of yeah, requiring or wanting or whatever it is to go to the change, there is already the change.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is that for you, change? And because I know there are a lot more energies going with that, but just to start off.
Change, you know, I mean, that's why we call it conversations with the earth. I look a lot at the earth, and change is something totally natural for the earth. There is no, like, what we humans tend to do is there is resistance to change. We want to control the change because I need to know what is going to happen after the change, versus the earth just, yeah, change. So what? Right now it's cold, and it was really cold. Like 2 days ago, we had 0 degree Fahrenheit, which is basically minus 18 Celsius. And I didn't hear too many birds. No, I'm hearing birds again. It's
Yeah.
really, they just adapt. Oh, it's cold, let's huddle somewhere in a protected area. The sun is shining, it's warm. Okay, let's be out, flutter around, look for food, chirp, have fun, have a good time. And I tend to start looking more and more at change in the same way. It's almost like change is part of nature. And
Yeah.
if I'm not changing, where am I resisting? Where am I fighting something? It really makes me almost wonder what's going on with me.
Do you know, while you were speaking, what I perceived for me is,
Hmm.
wow, that resisting also, or that hard work and that process or whatever it came along, that is coming, what I have learned, that when you want to change something, it's nearly, you have to know already the outcome of that change. And that is the hard work, because you are working towards something that perhaps not even
Isn't part
was,
of the change.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
And then you have to work really hard to make it happen.
And then you have to make really, work really hard and control and adjusting, but adjusting to go with that's what you
You can just
assume
go
that,
with the change.
yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is in a way why I also look at change not so much as change anymore, but as adapting. Something is shifting and I'm adapting to it. And there is in adapting, there is more flow.
Yeah.
There is not that work, there is not that resistance, there is not. And for me, there is a really big difference. Am I adapting or am I accommodating? And adapting is, for me, though grammatically it's not correct, but adapting is an active word versus accommodating is a passive word.
Yeah, accommodating for me calls also settling, like settling, even accepting. And what is interesting for me that I hear now when you say change is more like adapting, is also what I became aware of, that change is not something, even like before you are here and you jump to another thing and then the hard work to go there. But we are always changing, as though when you wake up, when you go to sleep later that day, you are different.
Yeah.
You are different, and that's not seen as change. But what if we start to go with that flow of continuous change and adapting, as you mentioned, with whatever is going on and required? Yeah, that's a beautiful way to have a look at change. Thank you.
From my perspective, we're continuously changing. Change is part of being alive. And if you really, if I look at just from a physical perspective, the cells in my body are changing.
Yeah.
The heartbeat is changing depending on what I'm doing. The digestion is changing depending if I'm eating or not eating. So there is a constant change in my body. There is a constant change in me as the being. How am I responding to what is going on around me? What am I reading in the news? All of that. It's a constant change. And that doesn't mean that I am becoming a totally different person, which I think we have associated with change.
Yeah. We don't have to be or become another person, even though we can appear different in a different way, in a different form even.
I'm stressed. You may see that on my face with frown or something. I may be upset or have tears. So there is all those things, but the core of me is staying the same.
Yeah. And do you know what I said once also is, when people tell me, "Oh, you changed so much in comparison, even a year ago, 3-4 years or whatever. And I said, the first time I said it, it was so clear for me, like, it's not that I am changing, becoming another person. No, I become more of me in a certain way. And the way that I can and allow myself being present also, but present to the world, yeah, that is slightly different. And how often also when people say to you, oh, you changed so much, is from their frame of judgment. And also perhaps, oh, I lose control over you. Now I can't define you anymore as I'm usually do. I don't know what to expect any longer. And that expectation, is that also going on with many people or humanity towards the earth, that they expect from earth, to be in a certain way, with the weather, with the nature, with the seasons, with whatever, and then they want to control it.
Yeah. And if I really look at it, I mean, when I was a kid, winter sort of really started in December and went until March when spring started. And I remember the amount of snow that I had. The fence was gone almost most winters. And now it's really, snow doesn't come until March. It's green. It's a green winter, so to speak, and a white Easter, jokingly, what we've been saying. But how much is that also the need that we have subscribed to, that we need to be able to control our environment? And weather is part of our environment. Seasons are part of our environment. But if I look at Earth history, it's been relatively stable for the last 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. But if I really look at the long range, I mean, there's been hot periods and seriously cold periods.
Yes.
And humanity, or human beings, in order to survive, had to adapt. Yeah. And that meant that they changed location, went to a warmer climate, went to a cooler climate, depending on what was going on.
Yeah, and that is the adapting, the movement in adapting, as though it's when we go, because isn't it that adapting and accepting are two things twisted, or
accepting is I'm powerless, I can change it, so I don't have any other choice but to accept it.
Yeah.
And adapting is active.
Is active. And also about the weather. That is the thing. Oh, good heavens. It's good that we can't demand the weather, because it would be worse than it is now, as saying that's the one thing we can't control. So many people function from that idea. Still, even with that idea, they want to control it. And because when it doesn't go, go.
Do they actually control it? Because if I look at it, if we say, I would like blue sky and sunshine, I like heat, I don't like rain. If thousands of people are thinking that, is that what is going to happen? And therefore, without being cognitively aware of on autopilot, we are trying to control the weather. And what if I become more conscious of that I can put out a request to the earth and that the earth will respond to it? But what if my request is such that it is actually coming from consciousness, which considers everybody, which comes from not the kingdom of me, where I'm the center of it, but comes from the kingdom of we? What does the earth need? What would I like to have? How does that interplay? And that is a totally different space of being.
And also the energy of requesting, a request without expectation, without, whatever, only a request. There is so much possible, more possible, but it's interesting what you are telling about when so many people, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, doesn't matter, go with the same controlling thought about the weather. What is that creating? I'm not really was present with that, but it makes sense. It makes sense because we are infinite. We are one with everything. So we tapping into everyone and everything. So yeah, what does that influence?
And how much do we create by, like, climate change is a big thing, and how much, oh God, climate change is so bad, and there is this and there is that, and how much is millions of people, billions of people thinking that, creating actually a climate change that would not need to happen if we were aware of how our thoughts create. And I'm at fault. I know thoughts create. And how often do I catch myself thinking something where I'm aware or become aware as a result of the thought that is actually not what I wanted to create? I would like to create this, but I bought into that, or I was in that, whole autopilot system.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go.
oh,
There is an energy that catches me here is questioning. I question now for myself as going with the energies of request and demand and as I hear this weekend during the certified facilitators training also that it's not important who said it, but it was demand of yourself and request to the universe, that difference also. So the question for me that comes up there is, so could it be as though the earth is a conscious being, that the earth knows when it's a demand of individual interest versus the request from the kingdom of we?
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And, to throw in a monkey wrench is, what if the earth even accommodates the individual unconscious demands just to teach, to facilitate?
Expand a little bit more on this.
Yeah, since the earth is conscious, wouldn't the earth facilitate us? Because it's only the humans that are unconscious or anti-conscious into more consciousness by showing us what the consequences are or the results are from unconscious behavior. The animals are conscious. The animals are aware. I have, my daughter owned a horse, and I've looked at the horse, and depending on the thickness of the fur, I said, oh, this is going to be a cold winter, or this is not going to be that cold. The amount of snow is not necessarily included in cold, but nevertheless, there is an awareness that animals tend to prepare for drought, tend to prepare for cold weather, hot weather, whatsoever, because they are aware. And awareness is part of consciousness. It's only us most of us are not aware. We used to be aware when we're still hunter-gatherers back in the time. But since we've living in cities, there is very few people outside of farmers maybe that are actually aware of reading the signs.
Yeah. And what you mentioned also is what lessons Earth presents to us. But isn't it so that for a long time, for several lifetimes, human lifetimes, Earth is doing that? And isn't it that it depends of what we humans are willing to receive of? Yeah. As I see and so often come across with the energies, is it senses, and it is a knowing that it is for so many lifetimes backwards that we really were living with the earth.
Yeah.
So is that indicating, including that we, at that time when we stopped living with the earth, started the separation? That's clear, but also stopped our receiving.
I would agree. Yeah.
Oh yes. This is bringing up several sensations in my back now. Wow.
And I have to say, I've talked before that I used to do rites of passage in nature. And during the training, there was one conversation about the lie that we have been sold, that we are separate from nature, that we're separate from the earth. And we bought that.
Yeah.
And for me today, the way I get that is so different. Back then I got it intellectually, but today I'm getting it energetically, which is a totally different level of getting.
Yeah, and for me also, Karina, even though speaking, thinking about caring for the earth, not being separated, or interest, or working with the earth, etc., as where I am today, I can say it was nothing of that. It was nothing of that. So in a certain way, it was intellectually being there,
Yeah.
but not being, not really being it. As you mentioned it, you got it from an intellectual place, but now you are energetically more present with that separation. Yeah.
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 And, if I look at it, to come back to climate change, how much of the conversation is actually all intellectual conversation and
You
not.
mean now the conversations about climate change in this
And
reality,
how to
what's
deal
going
with
on?
it,
Yeah.
da 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 da.
Yeah.
It's not checking in with the earth and saying, oh, and having that conversation with the earth, what the earth requires. But it is also when that whole climate change conversation started, I was aware of the attempt to control things, that it needed to stay the same, because that is basically what is underneath the climate change. We need to keep the same temperature, we need to keep the same water level, the ocean level, etc., etc. And it was also for me another sign of how superior humans feel, that they can force the earth to change. As
Yes.
if the earth
And
hasn't changed throughout Earth history.
yeah, Karina, but isn't that coming from, because I hear you, the superiority, the control of, but isn't that coming from seeing Earth as some rock in the
Yes.
universe, as something that is, yeah, like yeah, a cup of water or whatever thing you can get?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we live on it and we use it. We don't work
Yeah.
with it.
And now I see really what that it really literally took out of life, took out of existence nearly. And I'm so glad and I'm so grateful that Earth is a conscious being. That it is. Because when it wasn't, there was no humanity any longer existing. Because from that control, trying to, we dried up literally, nearly, yeah, we dried up the earth.
Yeah.
As there is, and seeing also our bodies. What's the percentage of existence of water in our bodies? It's nearly 70%, if I'm not wrong with that. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit.
Which interestingly is also about the percentage of water on the earth versus land mass.
Yeah. But that will say also when because we are in engagement, we are interacting, if we want to know it or not, if we want to acknowledge or not, it is part of being, existing. So when everything dries up, we are drying ourselves also up. And that leads me into questioning now in this moment, how many people suffer from skin problems? And more babies also have skin problems. Is that a directly consequence of unconsciousness, of that separation?
I mean, the reason I'm hesitant to say yes is because what flashed for me is how much have we poisoned the earth, and like the glyphosate and Roundup, which is also used in fertilizing and pest control and weed control, but the glyphosate is now in the rain. And how much are we harvesting the consequences of our stupidity?
Yeah, which
We
come
go
from that
out into the
separation.
rain. Yeah, it's what we eat. There are so many implications in that arena, and that I'm not necessarily just wanting to say yes with drying up, but we are harvesting the consequences of unconscious action.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful said. The consequences of that unconscious behavior also.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, and I can speak for myself, really, how long I was blind and deaf to all those aspects. It is, yeah, even going with what I named in that time, conscious of what was going on with the earth and trying to change and go for the change, it was still from separation and not really acknowledging the conscious being the earth is, not acknowledging that our bodies has and exists from the same elements earth is.
Mm-hmm.
So there is still a lot to go, my point of view.
Yeah.
To become even more aware and making, and I'm choosing it because the choice is today creating our future. So yes, I'm committed now, really committed to consciousness, and from that is also committed to myself because I'm also a conscious being, and making those choices to really be being present and brutally honest with myself where I'm going into those separations, where I'm still live from and in separation. It's because I know all that, not for making it wrong or right or whatever, but hey, that clearly didn't work. What can I choose now? What can I do different? What can I be different? What is that? That is every day, every step, every minute, I'm willing to go with that change and adapting me with that change that is contributing and creating that sustainable living on earth, those possibilities. And it doesn't matter if it is still in this body, because those choices and changes I make and go through and receive more of myself, be more of myself, is being more conscious, is for a future 10,000 years, 20,000 years, 100,000 years from here.
Yeah.
So it's not really that I will see or not know how to say it, but with this body, because I'm over 50, so let us say that we are in the second part of our existence in this lifetime, as though they say once you pass 50. So yeah, whatever, there is possible, but it doesn't matter knowing that we are infinite. We are infinite, so it's, yeah, we are generating and creating more. And that's the choices I make, making from the space and knowing of that kingdom of we, from that oneness. And at the same time being brutally honest with myself, even though I am conscious of earth, I am aware of the infinite being I am. That doesn't include that I am that being every second of my life.
Yeah. No, it's and what I want to throw out on the other hand, because you really talked about the distant, long-term.
Long-term.
What about the biblical ages? I mean,
sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear you. What did you say?
What about the biblical ages? In the Bible, people
age.
were 600, 700, 800 years old. If you live that long, you might really want to take care of your house, of your home, and not destroy it.
So true, Karina. But hearing that, for how many people, and also still is somehow up in my world as like, really, is that possible? But
I hear you.
Yeah, but what if? What if really it is possible?
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, supposedly it was possible. Why shouldn't it be possible again?
Yeah.
And
but that requires that we cut off our hats, putting it aside, and go with what we know, and go really from the space of infinite being.
And go with the energy instead of
energy. Yeah. And yeah, what if that is the change we can receive now? What if we receive that change, those possibilities, changing that, knowing that it is possible, even though we can't get it really yet?
I think intellectually, per definition, we can't get it, but I've heard enough medical people talk about that technically, if we keep the body healthy, the body is able to get way older than just 100 years. And we can argue about, is it older than 200 years, 300 years, 400 years? What is the number? And what if that is not the important thing, but the fact that the body can get older? And do we really want to destroy and have the idea, like we say in Germany, after me the floods, I don't care. What about my kids and my grandkids? And I'm not the only one who has kids and maybe grandkids. Other people do. What about for them? What about the Native American way of thinking in 7 generations?
Yeah. But that is also that we allow our body stepping out of the control. And with that is also, when we allow our body, then we can hear our body. And how difficult, quote unquote, because it's not difficult, but we still live from that space of difficulty, is it to really hear our body? from that controlling point, and from the expectations, and from the definitions, and from whatever it is, as though we see often people, quote unquote, healthy people, quote unquote, only taking healthy food and healthy movements and whatever. What we're talking about is it truly that healthy? Are they really caring for their body? Are they really living with their body in trust, in respect, in honor? That it opens a complete other side for me, because I bought that for a long time. That everything under the name healthy was really healthy, whatever it would say, but we buy it.
We buy it. And the interesting thing is this, I remember well where butter was healthy, and then butter became really evil, but we should have margarine. And then, oh no, margarine is really bad, butter is really healthy.
Yeah.
Whoever funds the research gets the result that they are funding. And what if we ask the body, would you like to ingest that?
And to bring up more in that aspect is how many diets are there into the if it was really working, why would there be so many different kind of types of diets if it works? What if the only diet is listening to your body without any point of view and going with the energy and with that communication, as the earth does also.
Yeah.
The earth doesn't go on diet.
I haven't seen that yet. Yeah.
Neither did I. Neither did I. But still, it's vivid, even though the condition of earth is not that really great, but still, it generates and it goes and it will go with what is required. And really knowing and acknowledging our way of being with the earth, cooperating with the earth, is perhaps the greatest diet earth is asking for in this moment.
And, since we're also talking on some level, learning from the earth, having earth as a teacher, did earth teach us something at the beginning of COVID, when the initial lockdown?
Yeah.
When as a sudden waters got clear that had been muddy, when as a sudden the sky cleared up, that in China children saw blue sky, in India they saw the Himalayas, that they hadn't been able to see. The air pollution in major cities cleared up with us getting out of the way. And it's not that we have to, we're not allowed to go back to anything that we did. But what if we can learn and say, how can we now, knowing what we've learned, manage things in a different way?
Yeah. And isn't that adapting, going with what we know, what we learned, and now?
Yeah.
What is now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something interesting, because I see that we really go fast this week, even though I'm not sure how it is on your side, but on my side, there is a lot of interruption with the internet. And it was really interesting, and we go on. We go on because what if this energy, the earth, is really urging us to go on and not letting us floating away with our attention to all those interruptions. So how often is that we didn't see that how many times we interrupt Earth and nature with our control systems, that Earth says, yes, I see you, I hear you, but hey, I know where to go to.
And the other thing, we are going longer and longer.
Yeah. I think the Earth has nothing to say.
Yeah.
Has nothing to show. Yeah. And what would it take to have more people to play? Because it somehow, could it be that people think because of the title, the teacher is an element of intellectual, is an element that can resist, perhaps. I'm not really sure of that. So what if also here we are saying changing is easy? It's easy if we allow it. It's not hard work. What if teaching is also that ease and playful?
Mm-hmm.
What if we start also to be more playful in every day of our life from now? And that joy, if more people can get that joy of playfulness, being is really a great diet for the earth, to use the word of our conversation.
But
So yeah.
What about just the quality of life?
Yeah.
I remember I don't know, but it was within the last week. I woke up in the middle of the night just being totally joyful and grateful for the earth.
That girl.
Yeah, I know.
Middle in the night, and you were really happy and grateful. Wow.
Yeah. It was just so yeah. What is possible? How could it affect our lives if we were willing to actually get out of the head and see what else is possible?
And a little side note on that is, it's not included. Like, when you are happy and live joyful quality of life, that doesn't mean that you aren't aware of what is going on. That doesn't mean that you check out of this reality. That doesn't mean that you don't matter. It doesn't include everything. But how many people are having that idea that, yeah, but when I'm happy, it looks like I'm not interested anymore. It looks like I'm not here anymore. It looks like this reality doesn't exist anymore. And what if that isn't true? And yeah, isn't true. True.
Totally not true.
Totally not. Totally not. So thank you for this really happy, light conversation. And we will see next week what we'll talk about then.
Yep.
Take care and see you next week. Bye-bye.